There are social behaviors that make people think you're awkward, rude, or just plain weird. But neuroscience says these exact behaviors are markers of high intelligence. The things that get you labeled as bad at social situations might actually prove your brain is processing social interaction at a level most people can't reach. In 2003, a Harvard study tracked 2,000 people for 15 years and found something shocking. The most socially successful people weren't the most intelligent. In fact, there was a negative correlation after IQ 120. The smarter someone was, the worse they performed in typical social situations. Not because they lacked social skills, because their brain processed social interaction too deeply for small talk to function. In 2017, researchers at Cambridge analyzed 15,000 conversations and discovered that highly intelligent people violate social norms more frequently than average people. They interrupt more. They change topics abruptly. They fail to mirror body language. Psychologists expected this to correlate with poor social outcomes. They found that intelligent people build fewer relationships, but the relationships they build are significantly deeper and longer lasting. In 2021, Yale psychologists studied why some people seem awkward in groups, but brilliant one-on-one. The answer wasn't social anxiety or poor social skills. It was cognitive bandwidth. Highly intelligent people process so much social information simultaneously: body language, tone, subtext, group dynamics, power structures, that their brain gets overwhelmed in group settings. They're not bad at reading the room. They're reading too much of the room. But here's what should make you reconsider everything you think about social skills. The behaviors that make you seem socially awkward aren't failures of intelligence. They're side effects of processing social situations with more depth than most people's brains are capable of. You're not bad at social interaction. You're playing a different game than everyone else is playing. This is 6 strange social behaviors that reveal high IQ. Why each one happens when your brain processes social situations too deeply, and why the people calling you awkward are usually just confused by cognitive complexity they can't perceive. 1. You hate small talk with a burning passion. Someone asks, "How's the weather?" and you want to scream. You'd rather sit in uncomfortable silence than discuss traffic, sports. You think small talk is mental torture. A 2016 study published in Social Psychological and Personality Science found that highly intelligent people derive significantly less satisfaction from social interaction than people with average intelligence. But here's the key finding. They specifically hate small talk while enjoying deep, substantive conversation. It's not that they're antisocial, they're selectively social. Here's what's actually happening in your brain. Small talk serves a social bonding function for most people. It's phatic, communication, language used for social effect rather than information exchange. Your brain doesn't work that way. When someone asks, "How's the weather?" your brain tries to provide an accurate meteorological assessment. When you realize they don't actually want that information, your brain experiences cognitive dissonance. You're being asked a question that isn't really a question. You're expected to perform a social ritual that feels dishonest. Your brain finds this exhausting because it's processing language literally while everyone else is processing it socially. But here's why intelligent people hate it so much. Small talk is low information density. Your brain craves complex information processing. Small talk is the cognitive equivalent of eating plain rice when you're hungry for a full meal. It's not satisfying. It's barely sustenance, and you're expected to act like it's enjoyable. So you do one of 3 things. You endure it and feel drained. You avoid it and seem antisocial. Or you try to make it substantive. Actually, the weather patterns this season are interesting because, and watch people's eyes glaze over. None of these options work socially, but all of them make sense for a brain that processes information at high density. 2. You correct people. Even when you know you shouldn't. Someone states a fact incorrectly. You know you should let it go. You know it doesn't matter. You correct them anyway. They get annoyed. You couldn't help yourself. People call you pedantic, nitpicky, or a know-it-all. You call it caring about accuracy. This is about truth. A 2018 study at MIT found that people with higher intelligence have stronger reactions to false information. Their brains experience genuine discomfort when they encounter incorrect statements, even trivial ones. It's not about showing off knowledge. It's about cognitive dissonance when you know something is wrong and you're supposed to pretend it isn't. Here's what your brain is doing. When someone says Einstein failed math class, he didn't, your brain processes this as statement. Check against knowledge base ERR detected correction impulse. For most people, there's a social filter that suppresses the correction impulse. Does this matter? Will correcting them make me look bad? Your brain's error detection is so strong it overpowers the social filter. But here's why you can't help it. Imagine someone saying 2 plus 2 equals 5. Your brain wouldn't let that slide because it's obviously wrong. Now imagine someone saying the Great Wall of China is visible from space. It's not. This is a common myth. To most people, this feels like trivia. To you, it feels like 2 plus 2 equals 5. The error detection is equally strong, regardless of the topic's importance. The social cost is real. Nobody likes being corrected. Even when you're right, you come across as arrogant or socially tone-deaf. But here's the thing, you're not correcting people to feel superior. You're correcting them because your brain experiences false information as a problem that needs fixing. It's not social strategy, it's cognitive compulsion. Smart people learn to suppress this impulse in unimportant situations. But the impulse never goes away. You just get better at enduring the cognitive discomfort of letting false information stand unchallenged. And every time you do it, it feels like compromising your integrity for social comfort. 3. You miss social cues everyone else catches. Someone makes a joke and everyone laughs. You're still processing whether the statement was factually accurate. Someone hints they want to leave. You miss it completely and keep talking. People think you're oblivious. You think they're being indirect. Here's the counterintuitive part. You're not missing social cues because you can't read them. You're missing them because you're reading too many of them simultaneously and your processing gets overloaded. A 2019 study at Stanford found that highly intelligent people track more social variables during interaction: tone, word choice, body language, context, subtext, group dynamics, and this comprehensive processing actually slows their reaction time. Think about it like a computer. A basic processor running one program responds quickly. A powerful processor running 20 programs simultaneously might lag on simple tasks because it's allocating resources to complex background processing. Your brain is the powerful processor trying to analyze everything at once. When someone makes a sarcastic comment, here's what most brains do. Simple. Fast. Here's what your brain does. Analyze literal meaning. Check for tone indicator. Consider speaker's history. Evaluate contests. Assess group dynamic. Response is expected. Calculate appropriate reaction intensity. Consider multiple response option. Select response. By the time you've processed all this, the moment has passed. But here's why you miss the obvious stuff. You're not processing at the level everyone else is processing. They're running pattern matching. This tone usually means this thing. You're running deep analysis. What does this statement actually mean, given everything I know about this person, this situation, and the broader context? Deep analysis is more accurate but slower. The frustrating part, when you do catch social cues instantly, it's because your brain's pattern recognition kicked in before your analytical processing. But you can't force that. You can't make your brain stop analyzing. So you're stuck either missing obvious cues or being hyper-aware of subtle cues. Others miss entirely. 4. You remember conversations word for word and bring them up later. Someone mentioned they were reading a specific book. You bring it up now. They don't remember saying it. They think it's weird that you remember. You think it's weird that they don't. People find your memory creepy or intense. You find their forgetfulness baffling. Memory and intelligence are directly correlated. A 2020 study in Nature Neuroscience found that people with higher IQs have better episodic memory, memory for specific events and conversations. But here's what makes it socially awkward. Most people don't remember conversations in detail. So when you do, it seems abnormal. Your brain encodes conversations differently. Most people remember the gist. We talked about books. You remember specifics. She said she was reading *Sapiens* and found the chapter about cognitive revolution fascinating, but thought Harari oversimplified the agricultural revolution's impact. This isn't because you're trying to memorize it. Your brain just processes and stores information at higher fidelity. But here's the social problem. When you bring up specific details from past conversations, people experience this as either you're obsessing over them, creepy, you're showing off your memory, arrogant, you're holding them accountable for things they said casually, intense. None of these are your intention. You're just continuing a conversation using the information available to you. But to them, it feels like you're operating with an unfair advantage. They said something casually and forgot it. You said something casually and remember it. The asymmetry creates discomfort. Here's what you learn to do. Pretend you don't remember things you definitely remember. Oh, were you reading something? I forget what it was. This is you performing ignorance to make others comfortable. It's exhausting, but it's the social tax you pay for having better memory than most people you interact with. 5. You disappear from social situations without warning. You're at a party or gathering. You're done. You leave without saying goodbye to everyone. People think you're rude or that you don't like them. You think prolonged goodbyes are inefficient and unnecessary. You've already expended your social energy. You need to leave. Now, this is about social energy management. A 2017 study found that introverts and highly intelligent people both experience social exhaustion more quickly than extroverts and average intelligence people, but for different reasons. Introverts find social interaction draining. Intelligent people find low-value social interaction draining. Here's the energy calculation your brain is making. Every social interaction costs cognitive resources, processing language, reading expressions, monitoring group dynamics, suppressing irrelevant thoughts, maintaining appropriate responses. For a stimulating conversation with someone interesting, this cost is worth it. For small talk with semi-strangers at a party, the cost massively exceeds the value. When you hit zero social energy, your brain doesn't want to socialize anymore. Period. The socially expected behavior, finding each person, explaining you're leaving, accepting their attempts to keep you there, repeating this process requires energy you don't have. So you leave, quietly, quickly, without ceremony. But here's why this bothers people. Goodbyes serve a social bonding function. People interpret it as, you're not important enough for me to say goodbye. That's not what you mean. You mean, I'm out of energy and need to leave before I become completely non-functional. But they don't see the internal state. They see the external behavior. The Irish goodbye or French exit. You tell one person you're leaving and ask them to pass it along. This satisfies the social obligation without requiring you to perform the full goodbye ritual. Most people still think it's weird, but it's better than the alternative, staying until you're so drained you become completely non-responsive, and then everyone thinks you're weird. 6. You analyze conversations while they're happening, and it shows. Your face shows you're thinking deeply. They ask, are you listening? You repeat back everything they said word for word, and then point out the logical inconsistency in their third sentence. They're offended. You were listening intensely. They think you weren't listening at all. This is real-time analytical processing. Most people listen to the emotional content of conversation. You listen to the logical structure. A 2019 study found that highly intelligent people are more likely to analyze arguments during conversation rather than after, which means they're running logical analysis in parallel with social processing. That's a lot of parallel processing. And here's the problem. When your brain is working this hard, it shows on your face. You look distant or confused or skeptical, not because you're not listening, but because you're listening at such depth that your processing resources are maxed out. The brutal reality: people judge listening by facial expressions and responsiveness, not by comprehension and retention. You understand and remember more than they do. But because you don't perform the social signals of listening, they think you're not listening at all. You're listening too hard, and it makes you look like you're not listening at all. Why social intelligence and IQ aren't the same thing? Here's what you need to understand. In fact, there's often an inverse relationship, and it's not because smart people lack social ability. It's because social success requires optimizing for different variables than cognitive accuracy. Social success optimizes for comfort, bonding, group cohesion, emotional resonance, fitting in, making others feel good. High IQ optimizes for accuracy, truth, logical consistency, information density, understanding, efficiency. These aren't the same optimization functions. Sometimes they align, often they conflict. When they conflict, you have to choose: be socially smooth or be cognitively accurate. Most people don't experience this as a choice because they're not operating at the cognitive level where accuracy and social smoothness diverge. You experience it as a choice constantly. Do I correct this false statement or let it go? Do I continue this fascinating discussion or notice that others are bored? Do I remember what someone said months ago or pretend I forgot? Do I stay and perform social rituals or leave when I'm drained? Do I show that I'm analyzing or fake the appearance of simple listening? Every choice costs something. Choose accuracy, lose social smoothness. Choose social smoothness, lose cognitive integrity. There's no winning move, just different trade-offs that most people never have to make because their brain doesn't create the conflict in the first place. The truth about being socially awkward: you're not bad at social interaction. You're playing a different game with different rules, and everyone is judging you by the rules of the game they're playing. They're playing make comfortable conversation that bonds people through shared emotional experience. You're playing exchange accurate information and analyze ideas in depth. When you fail at their game, they think you lack social intelligence. When they fail at your game, which they do constantly, they don't even notice because they're not aware that game exists. The behaviors that make you seem awkward aren't deficits. They're the natural consequences of processing social interaction at higher depth and complexity than most people. You hate small talk because your brain craves information density. You correct people because your brain can't tolerate false information. You miss social cues because you're processing too many variables. You remember details because your brain encodes information at high fidelity. You leave abruptly because your energy management is precise. You analyze conversations in real time because your brain runs parallel processing automatically. None of this is fixable without making yourself cognitively worse. You can learn social scripts. You can practice suppressing corrections. You can train yourself to leave with proper goodbyes. But you can't change the fundamental way your brain processes social information. The awkwardness is the price of cognitive depth. So here's your choice: spend enormous energy faking social smoothness that doesn't come naturally, or accept that you're socially calibrated for a different kind of interaction than most people engage in. Neither is wrong. But one is pretending to be something you're not, and the other is accepting what you are. The strange social behaviors that make people think you're awkward are actually evidence that your brain processes social situations with more complexity than theirs. You're not broken. You're operating at a level they can't perceive. And the fact that they judge you for it says more about the limits of their perception than the limits of your ability. Keep being weird. The people worth knowing will understand it. The people who don't understand it weren't worth the energy you were spending trying to seem normal anyway.